All right, Chris and Dan show. You you didn't ask for this, but we're gonna give it to
But
you
you're gonna
anyway.
get it.
Why?
You're gonna get it like a
Sponsored.
pie in the face.
Yeah, sponsored by Pfizer. Go get boosted. So this morning, check this out. On my other channel, Dance Fair, it's clinical research channel. I'm starting to get into biotech. Um, I had a guest. She was a no-show, and I was kind of glad she was a no-show because this thing came out today or yesterday, and I was like, me and Darshan Kulkarni, who's an attorney that we've worked with in the past, he's a cool guy. Uh, we were talking on Twitter about it, and I was like, dude, we gotta go live. So this morning, when this lady was a no-show, I texted Darshan. He was up because he's East Coast time. I'm like, I'm not gonna wake up at 5 for no reason. Like, I'm either gonna go solo. I'm all caffeinated. I'm gonna get productive, or you join, and you're a compliance attorney and a communications attorney for sponsors. So he's like, absolutely. So we did this, so you guys can watch that. We're not gonna react to that
So
video. It's an hour-long video.
I got a question. Did you know going in you were going to do this topic, or did you two discuss and decide this is the topic to do?
I knew last night that this would be a topic Darshan and I would do. I didn't know it would
At
be
some
as
point in
early
time.
as the next day. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
But it's
okay.
timely that it was as early as the next day because it's news. It's relevant news.
Sure.
And so, my take on this was it's very cringe. So basically, Pfizer partnered with Marvel to release a comic only online. It's not even a video.
But they didn't really partner with Marvel. They partnered with Disney. Disney owns Marvel.
Sure. Yeah. But Marvel's a subsidiary, but yes, you're right.
Right.
So they have a partnership with Marvel. Marvel probably got paid good chunk of change for this. I wonder if somebody can figure that out. I'm gonna look it up after this, because they're both publicly traded. So the deal, like, I think next quarter they have to release what. Maybe they don't line item every single expense like that. They'll probably be in a category. It's definitely marketing and branding. Darshan said he's an attorney. He actually brought up good points. Me and him, we did have one agreement. We agreed it's a good idea for big corporations to do innovative things like this, because it's other than the same stale ad, and we're gonna get into the complexity of that too. But
so you're
comic. No one's ever done it.
So you're speaking from a business perspective. It's a good.
Yes. Macro level. It's a great idea. Like, if we can do this for DSCs, I would do it.
Sure, expand your market.
Yeah, I mean, imagine partnering with Marvel or DC Comics and then getting your brand awareness. Darshan said it's legal because they're not promoting their vaccine. So there's a legal loophole. They're just talking about getting a vaccine. There's only 3 of them or 4 of them in the world. Really, only 2 in the U.S.
There's way more than that, right? There's
whatever. Okay.
There's chickenpox vaccines.
They're talking COVID vaccine. COVID vaccine.
Okay, so there's 6, right?
Moderna, yeah, but Pfizer, only 2 main ones in the U.S.
Okay, 3. Oh no, J&J was taken off, right?
Yeah. So 2. So it's AstraZeneca, and then I don't know if falls off after that. But in Europe, India, China, they have their own.
Yeah, and Russia.
Yeah, but the loophole is, as long as Pfizer doesn't say their vaccine, and they have an army of attorneys that went through this. They didn't drop the ball. They're just saying
a vaccine.
A vaccine.
It's
perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay to not list the negative aspects or the potential side effects, because you know how in TV ads they're
when it's specific. When it's specific to a drug.
Yes. So this was a way around it. So on that premise, as a business person, I understand this is a good idea.
So just so I'm 100% clear, and thus the audience would be too.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few like me. I have a question here. So what
you're telling me, you guys can watch the whole thing. I'll put the link underneath.
So what you're telling me is, if you don't state a specific drug or vaccine in this case, it's okay. As a matter of fact, it's not required to list the side effects. But if you mention a specific vaccine or a specific drug, you must list the side effects. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. Did not know that.
I didn't know that either, but that's why they have attorneys. And that's why I had Darshan, and I didn't go solo, on this one.
But it does make sense. But it certainly makes sense because there's going to be different side effects for different drugs, right?
Exactly. So it's a sneaky way to advertise. There's only one of two in the U.S. that you could think of. So Pfizer's like, yeah, who cares if some people get Moderna? We have way more distribution anyways. 70% of them will get ours.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Sure.
Right? It makes business sense. The fact of the matter, this thing is so cringe, man. Even people on the fence about this vaccine, like me, I'll save you guys from watching it, but if you want to, I would appreciate it. Chris, I'll send you the link.
You would really say you're on the fence about the vaccine?
I'm on the fence. Here's why. Let me explain. Why.
I'm not on the fence.
I know you're not. Let me explain why. The only in my opinion, and who am I? But in my opinion, the only reason to get vaccinated and to be compliant with them is to avoid long COVID. If there is truth, the fact is nobody knows whether this vaccine, what's worse for long COVID, because it's been proven that both the virus itself and the vaccine can cause long COVID or long COVID symptoms. They can't differentiate the two because not enough time has passed, right? That's the only thing keeping me from saying this vaccine's total garbage. I would never take it. So long COVID.
So I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think though and there's more and more data coming out on the side effects with these.
Yeah, because time is on our side now, right?
Exactly. But there's definite proof, at least in my opinion, from the data, that if you fall into one or two categories, you should get the vaccine. If you're in any other category, you should not get the vaccine because of the potential side effects. That's what I'm saying, right? So if you're severely obese, or if you're over, I think I'm not positive on the age, but I think it's 75. If you're over 75 or you're severely obese, you should get the vaccine. You're in a lot of danger in terms of if you get COVID, you're going to die, right? Outside of that, though, if you're healthy for the most part and you're not over 75, there's no reason to get the vaccine, like none.
Yeah,
because
but
of the side effects. That's my opinion.
Right, but that's immediate risks from the virus, right? Well, like, what scares me is what happens 20 years from now if you keep getting COVID and it's different variants over time.
What you're not addressing here is the vaccine does not keep you from getting COVID. If anything, it might make you more apt to get COVID. So it does you no service to get the vaccine.
We don't know in regards to long COVID, is my point.
Yeah, but okay,
what if regular boosters prevents long COVID from getting worse in vaccinated individuals versus others?
But haven't you been paying attention to all these people? I'm like the CEO of Pfizer just got COVID, and he's double vaxxed and double boosted.
Long COVID's a completely different thing than getting COVID.
Yeah, but what's the vaccine going to do for you?
Nobody knows. That's the point.
It's not going to.
We haven't lived 20 years to figure out.
Yeah, it's not going to prevent you from getting COVID, and it's probably not going to prevent you from getting long COVID either. If it can't prevent you from getting COVID, right? Or you think it does?
Right. Yeah. We don't know. That's my point.
So
that's the only silver lining in like potentially wanting to get the vaccine.
So something you're unsure of whether it'll do or not, I just don't think that outweighs the harmful side effects of getting the vaccine, in my opinion.
The potential harmful side effects. They're still rare, but they're potential harmful side effects.
I don't know. There's more and more. Like, there's new studies like every week coming out saying...
I know, but Darshan brought up a good point. People do butcher the data to show what they want to show, and they do it on both sides. So it's more complex than just picking a side and that's it.
So you think that's true of peer-reviewed studies?
Oh, of course. They're brutally corrupt on both sides. Like, they'll butcher the data. You can get peer-reviewed across different publications.
All right.
You can't trust. That's the problem. You really can't trust anyone. But the only thing that keeps me in somewhat, like, from saying 100% vaccine's not a good idea is this idea of long COVID. What does happen if a kid repeatedly gets COVID or repeatedly gets the vaccine? Because long COVID we don't know if it could be caused by the vaccine. Which one's worse? Long COVID from repeated vaccines or long COVID from repeatedly being exposed to the virus? At the end of the day, they're kind of similar, right? Which one's worse long term for the child or for the person? You don't know.
I'm
We
going to
don't
tell you
know.
right now, I am so opposed to kids getting a vaccine. They would have to kill me to get my kids vaccinated. There's just no
Right.
way it's happening. Zero.
Yeah, and many people feel like you. I mean, probably me too. I'm one of the things that came out is like anti-mandates. So anyways, like that's the only thing keeping me from saying I'm 100% sure I don't want it is because we don't know the future. We don't know if it's truly worse to go unvaxxed and just keep getting exposed to the virus versus getting vaxxed and maybe long COVID's not as bad for you as it is for those who are unvaxxed. We don't know.
So,
Nobody can answer that question.
so when COVID came out, or when it was March of 2020, when
Mm,
it was sure, we were for sure it was in America, and America basically shut down.
yeah,
You and I got COVID in mid-December. It was like December
yeah,
10th or 13th, something like that, when we went to that
yeah.
hospital. That's where we
Right,
both think we
right
got it.
around, right
We both
before
got it at the
Christmas.
same time. Yeah, we
Hmm.
both got it at the same time. We went to a hospital to do our work, and
Yep.
we both got COVID at the same time. So
Yep.
we're pretty sure we got it from the hospital, right? Or the McDonald's thereafter that we
Could have
stopped at
been
because I
it.
was
Yeah. Who
starving,
knows?
because
I could have got it from you. You could have got it from me. Who
there was
knows?
homeless dudes coughing right next to us and all kinds of stuff. So
Sure.
um, anyhow, the point of this is at that point in time, I jokingly said, when we got COVID, I was jokingly said, I just want somebody with COVID to spit in my eye like every 3 or 4 months, right? I'm going somewhere with this. So,
Right.
like every 3 or 4 months, just to keep me re exposed to it, to keep my immunity up, right, against COVID. See, at this point in time, I would rather do that than get a vaccine or a booster. I think that would be much more effective. Just keep your immune system active, right? So, where you have constant T cells, right? I think it's T cells floating around in your bloodstream that fights COVID, right? So
Right.
that if you're exposed to it at all, it's instantly kill. I
Hmm.
would so much prefer that, right? Just have somebody with COVID spit my eye every 3 months, and that
But
way I just will never get it again.
sure, that's one hell of a way to. That's a hell of an alternative. The problem
I'll
is,
do that
Chris.
over a vaccine. That's what I'm
Sure,
saying.
Chris. But the point is, nobody knows what the effects of COVID are 10, 20 years from now, and repeated exposure
That's
with
what I'm.
the vaccine and without the vaccine. Nobody
That's what.
knows. It's proven that it lives in your microbiome. Even people who are anti-vax will tell you this. It lives in your microbiome, and it can wreak all kinds of havoc later. And so can the vaccine.
Right, vaccine crosses the blood-brain barrier.
So
So,
which one's worse? We don't know long term.
so again, that's what I'm saying. If you expose yourself to COVID, you won't get COVID, so long as you have active immunity. That's what I'm saying. Then you
Well,
won't get COVID again.
that's not how it works. You still can get infected, and it could still live in your gut. It's just your
Mm,
T cells kill it before it gives symptoms, but that doesn't mean you're not getting long COVID. Matter of fact, you might get worse long COVID if you keep getting exposed to it.
think so? Is that how it works?
We don't know, but that's how viruses work.
Uh,
There's long influenza. There's long all kinds of viruses. There's long COVID.
all
We
right.
don't know. That's my whole point. I don't think it's a good strategy to go around letting people sneeze on you. My point. And as anti-vax as I am, that's the only saving grace it has. Is like,
The
do
silver lining, huh?
people with long COVID do better if they're regularly vaxxed versus those who are just naturally exposed every time the new variant comes out? Nobody can answer that question on either side.
Yeah, there's not enough time. There's not been enough history, of course.
Exactly.
So which one are you going to roll the dice with then?
You already know where I'm rolling. I'm taking the chances. But if data starts coming out that it's they're improving it, I would easily switch.
So what they've said, right, with the vaccine, yeah, it doesn't stop you from getting COVID. What it does, though, it reduces the severity, right?
Yes.
If you do get COVID, but me personally, because I have experience now, I just got over COVID for the second time. Um, it only really made me sick for a couple of days, right? Whereas the first time was like a month and a half. So
Yeah.
I think the same is true of your natural immunity. I think it reduces the severity. Now,
Yeah, but
again, it doesn't answer the long COVID
it
part of it
doesn't
yet.
answer because it could lie dormant, and maybe the vaccine triggers that and makes it worse, or maybe the vaccine alleviates that in the long term. We don't know. Nobody knows, so they need to study it. That's kind of my gripe with this ad or this comic, which is not an ad, but it's basically an ad for a clinical trial without IRB approval. Because if the many
What ad are you referring to?
This comic, we're supposed to react to this comic.
Oh, okay. Let's react to that, then we can talk about it.
Yeah,
Been talking 15 minutes without seeing it.
Yeah, I know, man. These people are probably like, Jesus, man, shut the fuck up and skip to the part about the. Oh, sorry, guy, we hear you, but you know, I had to give my 2 cents because it's not as simple as picking a side and that's your camp and then you stick to that. It's not as simple, and both sides do this way too much. So here it is. It's really cringe. Really, really cringe-worthy, man.
So
Right?
we got Captain America, Iron Man. I don't know who the others are. There's 4 others. I don't know.
Thor.
Thor. Where's Thor?
Thor's right here.
Oh, is that Thor?
Okay. Yeah. So, and Thor, by the way, Thor, I don't even think they can get viruses like we can. He's a god. So, and then another thing is, like, why is Iron Man not masked? I mean,
he is masked. That's a mask.
He's masked, but it's not a virtue signaling mask. Like, he'd wear that mask anyways.
He's the one over just the mouth.
Yes, and then Captain America's maskless, but he's not a god. So, I don't know what's going on here because everyone else, well, here they're not masked, but you can see they recently jabbed both mother and daughter.
Yeah, they got the cotton balls on their arms.
Look what it says. You're among everyday heroes. Let me go back. The construction worker, the florist, the painter, everyday heroes are everywhere in your community. What makes them everyday heroes? They know what to do to help defend against COVID-19. Vaccinate. Together we can help protect ourselves against COVID-19.
See, that's misleading right there. Defend against COVID. So
they know what to do to help defend against COVID.
How are they defending against COVID? I mean, themselves, but when you use that term and as a hero, you're defending others, right?
Yes.
It doesn't defend others. You get COVID, you can give it to others.
Well,
you can get COVID on the vaccine. So that's a complete lie.
Their loophole is that it may be a lie in practical matters, but the studies and the data will demonstrate to back this up.
It doesn't, though.
But they have an army of lawyers that approve this, and it does. Because the studies that they got approval for do show this. Even though we know, and 99% of people know, it's not accurate.
They've done studies to prove what? That the vaccine prevents you from getting COVID?
And transmitting it to others.
Okay, yeah, both are lies. Okay, let's go.
Well, they were both short. There's caveats. They were both short-term studies and not enough data to actually make those claims, but they got approved. So they're legally allowed to say this. Everything here, this is the shocking part. I went through this with Darshan.
Yeah, who's an attorney, allowed to well-established attorney.
Yes, they're allowed to make all these claims. Communicate. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about the latest developments. See, they're saying all the right things. Stay up to date. COVID is unpredictable. Continue to take action against COVID. So vaccinate. Stay up to date with the latest recommended booster and be an everyday hero so you can be like Thor too. But wait, there's more. This is just like page 2, right? Look at this. You got, what is this actually? COVID-19 Vaccination Center. Okay, everyone's, it's debatable whether it's socially distanced, but COVID-19 vaccinations are here. As the news says, as the Avengers continue to battle Ultron, an all too familiar sight for this long-standing foe of Earth's mightiest heroes. That's like 6 blocks from here. Is Ultron gonna get us? I think we're gonna be okay, bud. Plus, there's no way that's only 6 blocks away. It's gotta be at least like, what does it say? 7. Thanks, Dad. Very comforting. Don't worry, Captain Marvel will help protect us. So, let's see how Captain Marvel is going to protect. That's right, just like the Avengers have done so many times before. Ultron keeps coming back and changing and evolving. So Ultron is the virus, okay? Ultron keeps coming back, keeps changing and evolving. So the Avengers keep adapting. Pfizer are the Avengers. Pfizer, they are gods. Some of them are gods because Thor's a god. So that means some people at Pfizer think they're gods too, similar to Thor. Keeps changing and evolving. So the Avengers keep adapting and re-strategizing, and they knock him back again and again. The first time Ultron showed up, we had never seen anything like him before. And here's where COVID came and everybody was ready for battle.
I got a question. So
yeah, you want to pause? We can.
No, not a pause. Just
well, it's not a video, but yeah.
So if somebody who's watching this video wants to find this comic, how do they find this comic?
Just this link. I'll put underneath.
Okay. Is it at Pfizer or
Marvel.com/Pfizer Everyday Heroes?
Okay. Interesting. All right. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Like, look, regardless of my monologue earlier or our debate, like, this is just terrible. All right? I mean, I'm not pro pharma, but it's not all or nothing either. That's my main point in a lot of these things. But all right, let's continue. Right? Let's continue.
I would have no issues with this. Honestly, I would have no issues with this comic if
Darshan loved it. By the way,
I would have no. Yeah, it's just crazy. I would have no issues with this if those 2 points at the beginning were true, that it prevented others from getting sick and it prevented yourself from getting sick.
But again, Chris, the clinical trial.
No, it doesn't. And they know it. Pfizer knows that's BS.
Chris, but the clinical trial, the data is in, and that's what it showed, and they're allowed to.
Yeah, I understand, and Trump's kind of to blame for that too. And I'm somewhat a Trump fan, but he's kind of to blame for that.
Wow, that's nice to hear. Okay,
he's kind of to blame for pushing. I understand why he did, and if I were president at the time, I probably would have done the same thing. The problem is when you rush something to market that usually takes 10 years and you got it in market in 3 months, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to have issues, right? And
under emergency use authorization, yes.
Yeah, and especially when you have these mega companies that all they care about is the bottom line and making dollars. Yeah, they're going to take advantage of this as much as possible. And that's what they did with these studies. That's what they did with these studies.
Exactly, but that doesn't mean that it's not true what they said at the beginning.
I bet you anything they knew right away this isn't true. I would bet you anything.
But it's legally true.
Yeah, it's legally true, but they knew it wasn't true.
But that's it. That's all they need.
Bet you money. I understand that. They're following the law. I get it. The problem is they're still pushing this BS when they know for a fact now it's not true. Right? And everybody knows this isn't true.
Sure, but what incentive do they have not to? Like, it's their business.
No, I get it. It's a business and they want to make money.
You would do the same thing if this was your business.
I get it. It's like people get pissed off because billionaires avoid taxes. Well, they're following the law. If you don't like it, you got to change the law. Exactly. I get it. It's still, my point is, this comic wouldn't bother me if those 2 things were true, right? I would agree with the comic. I would be like, I agree.
Well,
you're protecting others and you're protecting yourself.
Yeah,
I get it.
I'm not going to fight over nuances. I agree with you. But so that's actually what makes this cringe.
It is what makes it cringe. Absolutely.
Yes. But here's the worst part about it to me. And I told Darshan this. They think, and I didn't go as far as we didn't actually go comic by comic to read the whole thing. The fact that they think they're similar to the Avengers and Thor's a god, they're all they think they're above us. They're here. They think they're here to help us because we don't know any better, right? I mean, any Marvel movie, what you got the superhero and you got the regular non-playable characters running, getting out of the way, right? It's their duty. I think this is how they sleep at night. They actually believe this, that they're helping,
that they're doing good
while they're enriching themselves. But they think people are stupid. They think that, because it's Marvel,
let's be wait.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest. I would say a large percentage of people are stupid.
No, you should see the comments on Twitter, which is largely left-leaning platform. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
95% of the comments are bashing this.
All right. Well,
So no, they've
wisened up.
They've overstepped even for their I don't know what the word. I've been up since 5.
So would you not agree? 6 months ago, Twitter would have probably agreed with this because there was a time
50-50. It was polarized back then.
Yeah, there was a time that the left absolutely was pushing the vaccine. You're not allowed to friggin' go outside if you don't have the vaccine.
That would have been right when it was approved.
No, it was even after. I would say no more than a year ago.
Within 6 months after.
No more than a year ago, they were still this way. You have to get vaccinated.
Sure, but right now we're living right now.
So there was a time.
95% are bashing.
Okay, great. So they learned. They learned
that it's.
They learned it the hard way.
And Pfizer really, like, the idea is good, but the execution and the timing and the topic are horrible. They could have done this for diabetes, for high cholesterol. They could have done this for all kinds of things.
Obesity.
They could have done it. Why is Thor in good shape and strong, right?
How
because
about
he eats well and he exercises? Like, who would have had a problem with that comic? And even throw in there, this will prevent you from getting really sick from COVID.
Yeah, 80% of all serious, severe outcomes are of obese people with COVID. 80%.
Yeah, but they chose not to do that. Why? Because this is their big money maker. They're coming off of the record-setting year, 2021.
Yep. No, I know. Billions and billions and billions.
So as much as I hate this, I totally understand why they did it. And they partner with Marvel thinking, okay, everyone loves Marvel. I mean, I love Marvel, and I know they're owned by Disney. I still watch every Marvel thing that comes out.
Sure.
And this makes me like Marvel a little less, but I'm not going to not watch their movies. Like, I can separate those two things.
Sure.
But it's cringe, man. And who's to blame Marvel, man? Who knows how much Pfizer paid them for this?
Oh, they had to pay them a lot.
Right?
I think so. Because Marvel,
and again, who's to blame Disney for taking the money?
Disney knows. I mean, Disney, as of late, hasn't really seemed to care what one half of the country thinks.
Well, now it's more than 95 thinking this sucks.
No, I'm just not talking COVID. I'm talking a lot of issues, right?
Yeah.
Disney doesn't seem to care what half the country thinks, but it's definitely affecting their bottom line, I think.
Right. So they got this bag, easy money, right?
Yeah, gotta make up for this. Get our $100 million.
Brilliant top line, brilliant macro strategy. Terrible execution on Pfizer's part, not on Marvel. Although on Marvel, this probably is not so good long term. If it turns out, remember how my monologue early about long COVID and we just don't know?
Yeah. Is it better to be vaccinated or better to be non-vaccinated? If it turns out, go ahead.
Yeah, if it turns out that it's worse to be vaccinated routinely, this is going to be taken down. Like first of all, way before that comes out, they'll try to make us forget this ever happened, but people won't forget. That's why this video is here documenting. Right? Marvel did this. Now, if it turns out that it's much better to get vaccinated, then you could also point to this and say, see, they were right and they should make money if they're doing something for public benefit. The jury's out on which side this will come out on, but this is definitely cringe. Cringe. All right, shall we continue the comic? Are you on the edge of your seat here?
No, I'm looking at. I'm waiting for more stuff to bitch about.
You see Fauci here? His Fauci. He's not sure what's going on. So,
he's the one that thinks he's Thor, a god.
Fauci, or then Gates is Thanos. I was bringing that up to Darshan. Darshan thought that COVID was Thanos, but as you can clearly see if you read it, Ultron is Thanos.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Ultron is the virus, so that still leaves Thanos wide open for somebody. Which I told Darshan it's Bill Gates live on LinkedIn. Okay.
You're going to be on the hit list like a certain doctor we know.
I won't. They don't take me seriously, man. That's the problem. Or that's the good thing. Okay, back then, people don't know much about Ultron, did they? At first, people weren't prepared, and he just wreaked havoc on their lives. Well, you're right. The Avengers had to figure out how to face him. They relied on decades of experience, along with some new innovations. So that's the mRNA. And they used their combined strength to defend us. And they used new tools to help? Yes, I think so. And another robot that first time, and it was working for a while. Then Ultron got a step ahead. Grandpa, how do you know so much about the Avengers? That's a
So,
good question, you see.
so this page is making me think that they're making it seem like Pfizer is a superhero. So how long
No,
until
Pfizer is the Avengers.
No, it's well, yes, I understand that, but if you step back from that, the way they're outlining it there, Pfizer is a hero. So
Yes.
how long until there's going to be a Pfizer superhero in the next Avengers movie?
I'm guessing never. Marvel would need a shitload of money for that one. So maybe never say never. Like this, Marvel kind of figures, it'll get hot on Twitter for like a week, but we made our bag, like, and then that's it. Like, we have to put it up on our website. Okay,
Yeah,
let's leave it there. It's interesting that only Pfizer tweeted this and not Marvel.
and not Moderna.
Yeah, I don't know.
Moderna could have used it.
Yeah, maybe sure. Yeah, Darshan said it. You don't know which one it's for, even the Pfizer logo is right on there.
Right.
Whoa, says this little girl. Continues. So breaking news continues to be an absolute knockdown, drag out fight. Though officials say they are optimistic that the Avengers can prevail. Maybe we should ask them to turn the TV off. I don't know if the kids need to see this. See, this is like they're bashing the Republicans, saying CNN sucks. Like, hey, turn the TV off. Like, we don't want our kids to see this. And it's the world we live in, and the Avengers help protect us. Okay?
Mm.
I suppose you're right. We've seen Ultron so many times before. I remember when the kids were younger, he attacked overseas, spreading his terror across the world. No one saw that coming, not at the time. I don't even remember how they got the upper hand that time. Do you remember, Pops? So this will be an interesting turn of events if they talk about the lab leak theory, but I doubt they will. Instead, they're going to tell you to get vaccinated. So by that time, the fighting had come home right to Avengers Mansion, and Ultron had evolved once more, multiplying into a swarm. The plan was a lot of hard work, but so strategic and innovative. The Avengers truly outdid themselves. It involved an energy shield, Thor's lightning, and Antarctic vibranium. So this is giving me a headache. But look, can you imagine? As I'm reading this, I'm thinking it would be. Can you imagine the people they hired to write this story? It's like one of the easiest things they've ever done. This is a shit script, and they're like fight. Pfizer attorneys are arguing and debating over the use of every word in each of these boxes. And like the people writing the script are basically like, all right, we'll make it whatever the fuck you want, just like,
just pay us.
paying us. We pay by the hour, so yeah, go ahead and debate it some more.
Yep.
Let me check like my fantasy team and come back and let us. Can
Yep.
you imagine? This is actually how it went down, man.
Yep, I'm sure it is.
One of the easiest projects probably they've ever been involved with. This is like half-assed drawings. The script sucks. The lawyers probably changed it 1,000 times. And those consultants made bank off of this.
Yep.
I wish I was them, honestly, doing this. I was remodeling my kitchen. All right, let's back to the story. I was remodeling my kitchen at the time and wanted to get my hands on some Antarctic vibranium, but it was probably to be better use in the fight against Ultron. Probably. Maybe they're making fun of like McCullough and stuff here when they're talking about ivermectin.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to read between the lines here. Like, are they making fun of like this Antarctic vibranium, like some magical pill that's gonna?
But isn't that actually used to defeat? They're combining that with the lightning of Thor and something from Captain America to defeat Ultron.
Oh, maybe. Let's see. Let's see. I had no idea. Now I want to know. I had no idea the Avengers did all that. They're just constantly re-strategizing and updating their methods behind the scene. Even we don't see it. Okay, yeah. So they're talking about the painstaking research that goes into this,
Yeah, how
which
they're
is true.
getting
By
how
the
they're
way, it's true.
oh, absolutely. But they're talking about what they're doing to defeat Ultron,
Yeah.
what they're researching.
Well, they've used a lot of other methods over the years. And a few years ago, Ultron took over the entire moon of Titan. Ultron had evolved once more, and the Avengers had to adapt. So in the end, they just shot him into space. That'll work too, I guess.
Good way to get rid of it.
I never knew the Avengers shot Ultron into space. Most people don't. A friend told me about it. Oh, right, those fancy friends of yours. I don't know what's happening here, but guarantee you just these 3 boxes was like 48 hours of lawyers debating what and creatives thinking like, should her hand be on his shoulder? Should her legs be crossed? And should they say most people don't or some people don't? I guarantee you that alone took like 12 hours to decide. This is a lot of
Possibly.
work went into this comic and easy money for the workers there.
Yeah. The
And then
creators.
boom. Okay, yeah, that one was pretty close. We may be at some real risk here, especially since this battle has been going on for a while. Exactly, which is why Iron Man will probably be arriving with something new soon. So Iron Man in this context is not Elon Musk, but it is probably Bill Gates or I don't know, Fauci maybe? Who knows? A massive development to share, as the Avengers have turned the tide of the battle using some sort of ionized energy cannon, causing Ultron to flee the scene.
Hmm.
Ionized energy cannon. Dude, this here alone, it would probably took them like 40 hours to figure out.
So is that the actual vaccine? I
I'm
assume.
guessing. Yeah. Ionized energy, as long as it works, this person says, fuck it, you know? And then this one says ionized energy cannon. The little kid's even into it. Like, yay, get us vaxxed too. Grandpa, how did you know what would happen? Because I know them, and I've seen their pattern so many times before. Ultron evolves. The Avengers gather information and take time to innovate and adapt, and then they figure out how to fight it, putting together their existing knowledge and research along with the new information they've learned. You said you know them, like in the way we all know them from, and then this person says, look, here they are, Iron Man. Hey kids, how are you? John, you're looking good, buddy. Retirement really agrees with you. He's probably on some Alzheimer's meds from Pfizer, too.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Tony, but don't you Avengers think about retiring? We need you out there helping to protect us. We're just getting started. You know Iron Man? Wow. Hey, kids, I wasn't always just a grandpa. That's gotta be Fauci. I used to be a foreman for damage control, a company that cleans up after superhero fights. And through that job, I made some pretty amazing friends and learned some pretty amazing things. That has to be Fauci.
Yeah.
It's gotta be. And that's how I know that we can fight back against even tough, ever evolving enemies. If you're willing to adapt, fight back, and take steps to help protect yourself, it's also important for entire communities to come together and help fight the threat. And that's exactly what we're doing today with Pfizer subtly placed in the background. This is the first time we're seeing Pfizer in the comic besides the beginning. So this decision also probably took 100 hours to figure out when is the right time to introduce Pfizer's new logo. Which, by the way, did you notice their logo change?
I did.
It's DNA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's double helix.
Nice.
We're ready for you. You're up next. The Avengers are doing their part to help keep us safe. Now it's time for us to do ours.
And get your vaccine.
Yeah. So look, Fauci,
Yeah, you got his vaccine.
facts. I told Darshan this is Fauci, and he said no, it's not. But we didn't read the whole thing. Thank God we didn't read the whole thing. But you know what? We read it here, Chris. So here you go. Ant-Man's like, chill. Thor's like, yeah. Thor can't even get this shit. I don't know why he cares. And then by staying up to date with COVID-19 vaccinations. You know, I'm going to hit up these guys here. The script, Paul Allar. The artist, Paco Diaz. Dude, this guy made bank, Chris. We should interview these guys.
Maybe
They
he only
probably
gets
signed
salary.
a bunch of
Maybe he's on a
NDAs.
salary. It's not contractual salary.
No,
Marvel made
I
bank.
think they're Marvel
Disney
employees.
made bank.
Yeah, they're Marvel employees for sure, or like consultants. But do you think they signed a bunch of NDAs? These guys,
most likely.
they had like they're NDA'd up to their eyeballs, huh?
Most likely.
So here's the advertisement. And now another important message: everyday heroes don't wear capes. I tell you that all the time, Chris. When you take a client call, I don't want to be on.
Mm-hmm.
But they do wear a small bandage on their upper arm after they get their latest COVID-19 vaccination. Right? So the band-aid is the cape.
Very nice for them.
Because everyday heroes are concerned about their health. And they're people who choose to unite with their communities and do their part to help protect against COVID-19.
So what do we know that's factual? We know that...
Wait, it's almost... vaccinate, and stay up to date with the latest recommended booster because we need our revenue stream, guys. You guys are not being compliant, and it's affecting our bottom line.
That's exactly where I was going. What do we know that's factual? Pfizer's a business, and all they care about is the bottom line.
With the latest recommended booster for you, look at this guy with the smile, the band-aid, and be an everyday hero.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's how it ends. So I'm gonna hit up these Paul Eller. I'm gonna try to get all these guys like on LinkedIn and see if one of them wants to come on, do an interview. Like I'm curious how it went down in that room.
You know, if they're NDA'd up to their eyeballs, they're not going to be able to discuss any of this.
Sometimes they get disgruntled.
This is true. If they got paid $10 an hour and they find out that Disney was paid $500 million for this, they'll be a little pissed.
Yeah, but don't you find this fascinating though?
I think it's just all ridiculous. I mean, it's a business. They want to make money. They don't care. They don't care if their vaccine kills
So
people.
on the business front, how do you feel about it? Like on the business side, good idea on their part, or do you think it does more harm than good for them, even on the business side?
I don't think the return will be worth the investment. That's what I honestly think. So I don't think this is going to convince anybody who's... I don't think there's many people on the fence anymore. I don't think it's going to convince enough.
Kind of.
You're not really.
I'm repelled by this.
I don't think this is going to convince enough people for what they paid to get this done, right? I just don't think it's going to. I don't think there's that many people left to convince one way or the other. Right? I think everybody, for the most part, is pretty steadfast in their beliefs now. Right?
Anyway, Marvel did this on spec, like, hey, pay us like X amount, but if more people, if it boosts your vaccination rates, we get a share.
That would make sense. I mean, if let's say Marvel says we'll do this for you for $200 million, right? And Pfizer's not sure that the return will be there. There could be a negotiation and say, okay, here's what we'll do: we'll pay you $50 million, and 1% or 5% of net proceeds above and beyond what we made each quarter the previous year, or something like that. That would make sense, right? Because that benefits both sides, right? Yeah. Because I just don't think
do you think Marvel, who has the leverage? Like, I think Marvel has the leverage.
Marvel, absolutely, Marvel.
So then they wouldn't work. Like, it'd be like asking us to work on spec for a startup site. We can just do it with another site.
It depends on the numbers. Like, for example, a good example of this would be Jack Nicholson, who did one of the first Batman movies. He was super popular at the time. They made him an offer. He said, no, I'm not working for that. And they said, well, how about this? And they gave him a percentage of the movie. And he thought it over and said, you know what? We'll do that. Right? And he wound up making more on the movie than the production company did. Mm-hmm. Jack Nicholson did, if I remember the story correctly. He wound up making a ton of money on the movie, doing it that way. Yeah. So it can work that way. right? Where Marvel winds up making more money than Pfizer.
But Marvel had to. I mean, Marvel comes to hate Disney or love it, but they have amazing movies and scripts. And this is shit. This is not up to par for what they do.
You know, I kind of agree with you. I think as of late, Marvel's been kind of sliding a little bit on their quality of content.
Yeah, I heard She-Hulk's kind of bad, but I still would give it a chance.
Not just She-Hulk, but there's been a few movies lately that I just haven't even seen, just because from what I've heard, it doesn't sound like something that would impress me.
Yeah.
I saw all the Marvel movies up until the last Avengers, and I don't think I've seen any since.
Okay, so take the business discussion out of it now. Just how do you feel as a human being watching this or reacting to this?
I don't know if I would say it's cringeworthy, but it's certainly
you don't think it's cringe?
I think it's certainly not true. I think so. Let's take something which would be worthwhile, like you said. If this were to fight heart disease or just some sort of betterment of
obesity,
something that there isn't an obvious bottom line to this for Pfizer. It's just a betterment of mankind. I think that would go way further for them in terms of return if they release something that's like, hey, just take better care of yourself, right? There was no bottom line. It's not here. This is not an advertisement to push you to go make us more money, right? This is just take better care of yourself.
But do you think as a business that's a good use of their money in that case?
In my opinion, it would have been a better use for them to lose weight. 80% of
for their brand, right?
Better for brand. 80% of severe outcomes due to COVID are in those who are obese. Take better care of yourself, eat better, lose weight, get in shape.
Yeah,
you'll live and be better if you should contract COVID, right? Be a superhero that way. I think that goes much further in terms of actual return for them because
brand equity.
It puts them on a higher pedestal as far as how people view them. Right now, I think most people view Pfizer as kind of sleazy, which they should.
Beyond kind of, yeah, and that was before COVID.
Right.
And
so if
the ironic thing, we even brought it up. We did live streams back then when COVID first came out. One of the things that got us excited about it was, hey, you know what? Like maybe pharma can make its reputation better now. Like now that the world sees how important clinical trials are, and maybe like Pfizer can actually be the superheroes. And it turns out they made themselves more of the villains than ever before.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. They're worse now than they ever have been.
I remember my optimism back then and yours.
Yeah, I do.
Like, hey, you know what? Like, and they ruined it, man.
I don't think they can recover ever. Personally,
no, but they did it. They did it in the name of like guaranteed profits. So, can you really blame them?
I don't know, man.
I mean, taking morality out of it, but just like business wise.
Sure. Okay, taking morality out of it. Sure. I mean,
as a public company, your obligations are to your shareholders primarily.
Certainly. I mean, taking morality out of the equation, which I'm sure the executives at Pfizer have, they don't care if you die from their vaccine. They have immunity.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah. But, I mean, how many are actually dying, though? Like,
a lot, supposedly.
I know, but says who? Because I'm still torn on that, too. Like, what Darshan said kind of struck me at, like, people will butcher the data until it shows what they want it to show. And both sides do this.
Well,
how do you know unless you're a scientist? That's kind of where I have to stop too.
Sure, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I would say on both sides of it, when the data is presented, there is some truth to the data, right? Regardless of the side, right? There's some truth to Pfizer. Their vaccines do work. There's some truth to that, right? Like I was saying earlier, if you're over 75 or you're obese, you should get vaccinated. Is what I believe the data shows. So there is truth to the vaccine works for certain segments of society. Right?
And then pharma does what pharma does and twists that leverage into something bigger than it is.
Right.
To increase market share.
Right. So I think there's truth in the data, generally speaking, at least some, right? May not be entirely true. So what I'm getting at is I think there's truth in the data that this is killing people. How many? Who knows?
But so are mandates still? Because right now, like the only thing I had, like I'm anti-mandate. So my only issue with the vaccine is that they had mandates.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because what you said is right, and like it does help some people, and maybe some people feel like they need the protection, they should be allowed to take it. Where I draw the line, and I think many others do as well, is mandates, and I actually think the mandates push people further away from, like, if there were people on the fence, once you mandate something, the natural inclinations to rebel, especially when you don't trust the
Right.
company,
Right.
which pharma's like least trustworthy industry ever, even
Mm-hmm.
pre-COVID. So I actually think the mandates did more harm than good. But Darshan argues, well, what else could the government have done? They didn't want to continue lockdowns forever. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
How about let human beings to be human beings, right? So
Yeah.
so let's just step back a year ago or a year and a half ago when it was thought that the vaccines did prevent you from A, getting COVID, and B, spreading COVID, which we know is not true in either case now. But there was a time when that was thought to be the case. So if the vaccine prevents you from getting COVID, what does it matter if everybody else around you has COVID? Right? So why do you need a mandate for everybody to get COVID? It's up to the individual, at least in a free society, to make decisions for themselves. So that should have been where it was at, right? You're protected, you get vaccinated, you're fine, you don't need to worry about it. They want to die from COVID, let them, right? That was my thought, and I was one of the people not getting vaccinated. If I die, it's my decision, right?
Yeah, this came up with my conversation with Darshan, and he was saying, well, yeah, but because I basically took your role in that one. And he said, yeah, but you know what, at the time, let's assume that they thought that it was efficacious and safe. But there was always going to be a large enough segment of people saying, no, well, we know how viruses evolve, so a vaccine really only works if everybody gets it. And so that's what government was thinking at the time. Like, we kind of have no choice but to mandate this. Like, they're flying blind too. They're trusting that the vaccine's going to work. And so, okay, let's mandate it. So, same with employers. And turns out they were duped as well.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I mean, but there's plenty of examples where you can say, hey, should we do this, make people do something, right? Force them to do something. And then without enough data in place to make this determination. Because, yeah, they thought, I don't know, I'm probably not making a lot of sense here, but from a research perspective, it takes 10 years approximately, give or take a couple of years, to prove that a vaccine works and is efficacious and it's not dangerous, right? When you have data of 3 months, something like that, it was a very, very short period of time, you do not have enough data to make these calls, right? So how can you mandate something on people? And even at the time, everybody was saying,
they're mandating on the theory. So governments trusted drug company enough to say, okay, we understand how viruses work. And
if you're going to force people to do something, I mean, absolutely force them to do something, which I don't think your government has the right to do that, right? I don't think any government in the world.
You need more than trust from Pfizer.
Right. You better be 100% certain of a lot of different aspects of this. One, that it works. Two, that it's not dangerous. And three, that people absolutely need to do this to protect themselves. You better be certain on all accounts.
And mandates have dropped, at least in the U.S., right? Like,
there's still mandates.
There's a few employers that demand it, but
the government's still mandating vaccines.
Really?
Yeah.
Military?
Yeah. If you're in the military, you have to get vaccinated, which is ridiculous.
To this day, still?
Yep. If you're, I just had this conversation yesterday with my daughter, who's married to somebody in the military. So, yeah, it's still required, even for family, in certain situations. That's why I was talking to her. And then I think there's like even contractual workers with the federal government. I'm not sure about that. That might have changed, but it wasn't too long ago. It was still required. If you were like contracting with the federal government, you got to have vaccine as well. I don't know if that's still the case though, but I know it was not too long ago, 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
So the federal government's still very much pushing vaccines.
And that kind of tells me that maybe they're safer than some may say. I mean, if the military doesn't want their soldiers dropping dead of myocarditis, right?
Sure.
I mean, you can make the argument that they don't care about their long-term health because they're expendable, but short-term they don't want people dropping dead. So, and they've got to have some intel on this.
It's still not enough. It's only been, what, 2 years?
But what would be the rationale for the military mandating it
I would,
if they know that it's dangerous?
Sure. My guess is it has a lot to do with our foreign relations, because we have so many bases around the world. That would be my guess, just because other countries are requiring it potentially, or they don't want to be held responsible in some way for spreading COVID by military personnel not being vaccinated. I don't know. I'm just grasping at straws here. I don't think there's enough data to tell them that vaccines are required, especially for young, healthy people.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree, but I think there's enough data maybe for them to make that decision that, hey, there's no short-term detriment to our troops getting vaccinated.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think that's the case, but that's a possibility.
I mean, I would hope so. They don't knowingly want them dropping dead.
Well, I mean, come on.
I'm just skeptical of both sides of this argument.
We don't need to go delve too deep into politics to see all the rational decisions that
No, I know
politicians make.
But it does pay to be skeptical of. I'm skeptical of both sides of most things.
Sure. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, anyways, guys, let us know what you think. This is probably not going to get taken off. My other one didn't. So
I don't know. Your other channel is a lot more established than this one.
True. We'll test.
Although
if it does, I'll just post it there.
Supposedly, I saw this about a month ago. YouTube is no longer penalizing people talking against vaccines.
Yeah, I think that's changing too. So, yeah, this will be up. Let us know, guys, what you think. Shrapnel, we want to especially hear from you. Like, subscribe, comment, share.
Thank you for watching, everybody.
Bye-bye.